When Jon and Tormund entered, a sound went through the hall, like wasps stirring in a nest. The wildlings outnumbered the crows by 5 to 1, judging by how little black he saw. Fewer than a dozen shields remained, sad grey things with faded paint and long cracks in the wood. But fresh torches burned in the iron sconces along the walls, and Jon had ordered benches and tables brought in. Men with comfortable seats were more inclined to listen, Maester Aemon had once told him. Standing men were more inclined to shout. At the top of the hall a sagging platform stood. Jon mounted it, with Tormund Giantsbane at his side, and raised his hands for quiet. The wasps only buzzed the louder. Then Tormund put his war horn to his lips and blew a blast. The sound filled the hall, echoing off the rafters overhead. Silence fell. "I summoned you to make plans for the relief of Hardhome," Jon Snow began. "Thousands of the free folk are gathered there, trapped and starving, and we've had reports of dead things in the wood." To his left he saw Marsh and Yarvik. Ethel was surrounded by his builders, whilst Bowen had Wicklestick, Left-Hand Lew, and Alf of Runnymud beside him. To his right, Sorin Shieldbreaker sat with his arms crossed against his chest. Farther back, Jon saw Gavin the trader and Harl the handsome whispering together. Aegon Oldfather sat amongst his wives, Howd Wanderer alone. Boric leaned against the wall in a dark corner. Mercifully, his boar was nowhere in evidence. "The ships I sent to take off Mother Mole and her people have been wrecked by storms. We must send what help we can by land, or let them die." 2 of Queen Salice's knights had come as well, Jon saw. Sir Narbet and Sir Benethan stood near the door, at the foot of the hall, but the rest of the Queen's men were conspicuous in their absence. "I had hoped to lead the ranging myself, and bring back as many of the free folk as could survive the journey." A flash of red in the back of the hall caught Jon's eye. Lady Melisandre had arrived. "But now I find I cannot go to Hardhome. The ranging will be led by Tormund Giantsbane, known to you all. I have promised him as many men as he requires." "And where will you be, Crow?" Boric thundered. "Hiding here, in Castle Black, with your white dog?" "No, I ride south." Then Jon read them the letter Ramsey Snow had written. The shield hall went mad. Every man began to shout at once. They leapt to their feet, shaking fists. So much for the calming power of comfortable benches. Swords were brandished, axes smashed against shields. Jon Snow looked to Tormund. The Giantsbane sounded his horn once more, twice as long and twice as loud as the first time. "The Night's Watch takes no part in the wars of the 7 kingdoms," Jon reminded them, when some semblance of quiet had returned. "It is not for us to oppose the bastard of Bolton, to avenge Stannis Baratheon, to defend his widow and his daughter. This creature, who makes cloaks from the skins of women, had sworn to cut my heart out, and I mean to make him answer for those words. But I will not ask my brothers to forswear their vows. The Night's Watch will make for Hardhome. I ride to Winterfell alone. Unless—" Jon paused. "Is there any man here who will come stand with me?" The roar was all he could have hoped for, the tumult so loud that 2 old shields tumbled from the walls. Sorin Shieldbreaker was on his feet, the Wanderer as well. Torrik the Tall, Brog, Harl the Huntsman, and Harl the Handsome both. Aegon Oldfather, Blind Doss, even the Great Walrus. "I have my swords," thought Jon Snow, "and we are coming for you, bastard." Yarwick and Marsh were slipping out, he saw, and all their men behind them. It made no matter. He did not need them now, he did not want them. No man can ever say, "I made my brothers break their vows." If this is oath-breaking, the crime is mine, and mine alone. Then Tormund was pounding him on the back. old gap-toothed grin from ear to ear. "Well spoken, Crow. Now bring out the mead. Make them yours and get them drunk. That's how it's done. We'll make a wildling of you yet, boy. Ha!" "I will send for ale," Jon said, distracted. Melisandre was gone, he realized, and so were the Queen's knights. "I should have gone to Celise first. She has the right to know her lord is dead." "You must excuse me. I'll leave you to get them drunk." "Ha! A task I'm well suited for, Crow. On your way." Horse and Rory fell in beside Jon as he left the shield hall. "I should talk with Melisandre after I see the Queen," he thought. "If she could see a raven in a storm, she can find Ramsey Snow for me." Then he heard the shouting, and a roar so loud it seemed to shake the wall. "That come from Hardhome's tower, my lord," Horse reported. He might have said more, but the scream cut him off. "Val," was Jon's first thought. But that was no woman's scream. That is a man in mortal agony. He broke into a run. Horse and Rory raced after him. "Is it White's?" asked Rory. Jon wondered. Could his corpses have escaped their chains? The screaming had stopped by the time they came to Hardhome's tower, but Wun Wun was still roaring. The giant was dangling a bloody corpse by one leg, the same way Arya used to dangle her doll when she was small, swinging it like a morning star when menaced by vegetables. Arya never tore her doll to pieces, though. The dead man's sword arm was yards away, the snow beneath it turning red. "Let him go!" Jon shouted. "Wun Wun, let him go!" Wun Wun did not hear or did not understand. The giant was bleeding himself, with sword cuts on his belly and his arm. He swung the dead knight against the grey stone of the tower, again and again and again, until the man's head was red and pulpy as summer melon. The knight's cloak flapped in the cold air. Of white wool it had been, bordered in cloth of silver and patterned with blue stars. Blood and bone were flying everywhere. Men poured from the surrounding keeps and towers. Northmen, freemen, Queensmen. "Form a line," Jon Snow commanded them. "Keep them back, everyone, but especially the Queen's men." The dead man was Sir Patrick of King's Mountain. His head was largely gone, but his heraldry was as distinctive as his face. Jon did not want to risk Sir Melagorn or Sir Bruss or any of the Queen's other knights trying to avenge him. Wun Wun howled again and gave Sir Patrick's other arm a twist and pull. It tore loose from his shoulder with a spray of bright red blood. "Like a child pulling petals off a daisy," thought Jon. "Let us talk to him, calm him. The old tongue, he understands the old tongue. Keep back, the rest of you. Put away your steel. We're scaring him." Couldn't they see the giant had been cut? Jon had to put an end to this, or more men would die. They had no idea of Wun Wun's strength. "A horn, I need a horn." He saw the glint of steel, turned toward it. "No blades!" he screamed. "Wick, put that knife—" "Away," he meant to say. When Wick Whittlestick slashed at his throat, the word turned into a grunt. Jon twisted from the knife, just enough so it barely grazed his skin. "He cut me." When he put his hand to the side of his neck, blood welled between his fingers. "Why?" "Pour the watch!" Wick slashed at him again. This time Jon caught his wrist and bent his arm back until he dropped the dagger. The gangling steward backed away, his hands upraised as if to say, "Not me, it was not me." Men were screaming. Jon reached for Longclaw, but his fingers had grown stiff and clumsy. Somehow he could not seem to get the sword free of its scabbard. Then Bowen Marsh stood there before him, tears running down his cheeks. "For the watch!" He punched Jon in the belly. When he pulled his hand away, the dagger stayed where he had buried it. Jon fell to his knees. He found the dagger's hilt and wrenched it free. In the cold night air, the wound was smoking. "Ghost," he whispered. Pain washed over him. "Stick them with a pointy end." When the third dagger took him between the shoulder blades, he gave a grunt and fell face first into the snow. He never felt the fourth knife, only the cold.